are watching the second episode of the Petty Farm Pucky Pest podcast. This is a trigger warning as this episode will contain discussions of inappropriate and graphic content not made for younger children. Viewer discretion is advised. Here we go.
De dagen gaan zo snel. Er gaat zoveel aan mij voorbij. Oh, maar één ding weet ik wel. Ik kan niet terug in de tijd, no. I don't know which way to go. Blijf zoeken naar de juiste weg. This time I will run the show, no, I won't wait again. Yeah, the world is mine. This time I know things will go my way. Yeah, this is my time, and I will make it, no matter what they say. And the ups and downs, solid overleven. What doesn't kill you makes you strong. Yeah, the world is mine. I'm not taken. I'm gonna live the dream. I'll always keep singing my song.
All right, welcome back. I'm Chip. And last time we took a deep dive into, the world of Kyle Lifat
Right.
and that whole Petty Farm Pucky Pest situation.
Yeah.
But today we're kind of shifting gears to something
Yeah, we are.
a bit heavier and, frankly, pretty unsettling.
Yeah, this time we're looking at how Emma Watson's image is being exploited through deepfakes
Yeah.
and other forms of fabricated content.
Right.
It's really
Scary stuff.
a disturbing trend that really highlights that darker side of technology and online culture.
Yeah, it's wild because for those who might not know, deepfakes are basically videos
Right.
where someone's face is digitally swapped onto someone else's body.
Exactly.
And in Emma Watson's case, it's often being used to create explicit and non-consensual content.
And what's really alarming is how widespread this problem has become.
Right.
We found hundreds of suggestive ads on Facebook and Instagram
Wow.
using Emma Watson's face to promote a deepfake app.
Really?
Yeah. And these ads ran for 2 full days before being taken down,
Jeez.
which raises serious concerns about the effectiveness of current content moderation.
It's crazy because it wasn't just hidden away on some shady corner of the internet.
Right.
This app was readily available on both the App Store
I know.
and Google Play, marketed for ages 9 and up.
It's crazy.
It makes you wonder how something with such potential for harm
Yeah.
could be so easily accessible.
Exactly. The fact that it was marketed to such a young audience is particularly troubling.
Right.
It really highlights the need for greater awareness and stricter regulations around this technology.
For sure.
Yeah.
What really stood out to me was the experience of Lauren Barton,
Right.
a journalism student who stumbled across one of these ads.
Oh, wow.
Her reaction was very real and very relatable.
Yeah.
She was disturbed by the implications, and rightly so. Imagine the potential for harm if this technology falls into the wrong hands.
It's a chilling thought. Someone could use this app to create fake revenge porn. Right.
Harass someone online, or even manipulate public opinion.
Wow.
The potential consequences are far-reaching.
Thankfully, there are individuals and organizations fighting back against this kind of abuse.
Yeah.
One that we dug into is the #MyImageMyChoice movement.
Yes.
They're working to raise awareness about intimate image abuse,
Right.
particularly in the context of deepfakes.
Yes. And they've been incredibly effective in advocating for policy changes.
Okay.
For example, they played a key role in shaping the UK's online safety bill.
Wow.
Specifically, pushing for provisions that make it illegal to share deepfakes without the consent of the person depicted.
That's huge. That's a massive win.
It is.
It sets a precedent for holding individuals accountable for creating and distributing this type of harmful content.
Yeah, for sure.
But this whole situation also brings us to a pretty disturbing corner of the internet,
Okay.
and that's the community known as the Matthews.
Oh, yes. The Matthews.
Yeah.
Their obsession with Emma Watson and other female celebrities is, to put it mildly, unsettling.
Yeah. The term Matthew itself is online slang for men who have this
Right.
obsessive and unhealthy fascination with female celebrities,
Gotcha.
often manifesting in the creation of non-consensual content.
So we're not just talking about some harmless fan admiration here.
No.
It's a much darker and more sinister dynamic.
Absolutely. They objectify and dehumanize these women, reducing them to mere objects of their fantasies.
Right.
And it's important to note that their fixation extends far beyond Emma Watson.
Wow.
They've targeted numerous other celebrities,
Oh, really?
including Britney Spears, Scarlett Johansson, and Avril Lavigne.
It's like a pattern of behavior.
It is.
And it's downright creepy.
Yeah.
And it gets even more disturbing when you look at the specific examples of deepfake content they've created featuring Emma Watson.
Right, we're talking about 3D videos of her engaged in sexual acts with animals or
Right.
fictional creatures, AI-generated lookbook videos filled with sexualized images,
Yes.
and even attempts to twist scenes from her films into some sort of justification for their behavior.
That's so disturbing.
It is.
And it's interesting how this connects back to Noko Pyrrhalize
Right.
and her alternate reality game, Pity Farm Pookie Pest, which we discussed in our previous deep dives.
Uh-huh.
The Matthews actually play a significant role in that game,
They do.
which suggests that their activities are becoming more widely known and condemned.
Yeah, it seems like Peerless is using her platform to expose this community and their harmful behavior.
Yeah.
It's an interesting way to use gaming and storytelling to raise awareness about a serious issue.
It's definitely unconventional, but it seems to be generating some much needed attention.
It is.
But the sad reality is that the Matthews and their disturbing content are everywhere online.
Everybody.
There are entire websites dedicated to deepfake pornography featuring Emma Watson,
Right.
with thousands of images and videos circulating freely.
And the titles and descriptions of these videos are often incredibly vulgar and degrading,
That's odd.
further highlighting their intention to humiliate and dehumanize her.
It's crazy the lengths that they go to.
They even go as far as creating physical Emma Watson sex dolls.
Oh my God.
It's a level of obsession that is difficult to comprehend.
It really makes you question what goes on in their minds.
Yeah,
But what's even more disturbing is that this obsession isn't a recent phenomenon.
right.
It seems to have been building for years.
You're talking about those countdown websites anticipating Emma Watson's 18th birthday, right?
Exactly.
Yeah.
That wasn't just innocent fandom.
No.
It was a clear indication of their unhealthy fixation on her reaching the age of consent.
And it's not an isolated incident. Similar countdown websites were created for Mary-Kate and Ashley Olsen
Really?
when they turned 18.
Wow.
It's a disturbing trend that seems to target young female celebrities.
It's like a predator stalking its prey, waiting for the moment they deem them fair game.
And sadly, that's exactly what happened to Emma Watson on her 18th birthday.
Oh, no.
Paparazzi took invasive photos up her skirt,
Oh, geez.
a clear violation of her privacy and a direct result of this obsessive behavior.
It's sickening. And knowing that this online obsession has spilled over into real-life danger for Emma is incredibly concerning.
Yeah.
She's had to deal with stalkers and privacy violations throughout her career,
Right.
which is a constant reminder of the very real threat she faces because of this obsessive behavior.
It's a stark reminder that this isn't just some harmless online fantasy.
Right.
It has serious real-world consequences for the victims.
But despite all of this, Emma Watson has shown incredible courage in speaking out against these violations of privacy.
She has.
She's condemned the lack of empathy towards women whose privacy has been violated, and has even directly addressed a hoax website that threatened to release nude photos of her.
It's amazing.
Her resilience is truly admirable.
It is.
She hasn't let these experiences silence her, and she continues to advocate for women's rights despite the threats and harassment she faces.
She's a true inspiration.
She is. But even with her strength and the efforts of organizations like #MyImageMyChoice,
Right.
the fight against deepfake abuse is far from over.
Websites like Fantopia continue to profit from non-consensual deepfake content,
I know.
despite claims from credit card companies like Visa and MasterCard that such transactions are prohibited.
And to evade detection, deepfake creators have started using hidden links to operate on Fantopia.
Oh, wow. So they're finding ways around it.
They are. It's like a constant cat and mouse game.
But there have been some positive developments on the legal front, right?
Yes, the UK government has criminalized the creation of deepfakes,
Okay.
which has had a real impact.
Good.
Some websites like Mr. Deepfakes have blocked access from the UK in response to this legislation.
That's great. That's definitely a step in the right direction.
It is.
But as we discussed, it highlights the lack of similar legislation in the U.S.
Yes, more needs to be done to address this issue legally
Right.
and to protect the victims of this type of abuse.
For sure.
It's not just about catching the perpetrators after the fact, It's about preventing this type of content from being created and distributed in the first place.
This deep dive has been incredibly eye-opening and honestly pretty disturbing.
It's a sobering reminder of how technology can be used for harmful purposes.
Right.
And how crucial it is to fight back against this type of abuse.
Yeah.
We can't just sit back and let this happen.
Absolutely. And I think it's important for all of us to consider the broader societal implications of deepfakes
Yes.
and the culture that enables them.
What does it say about our society that this type of content is so readily available and consumed?
Right.
What are the long-term consequences of blurring the lines between reality and fabrication?
Yeah.
How can we create a culture that respects consent and protects individuals from this type of exploitation?
It's a big question.
These are questions we all need to be asking.
They're definitely questions worth pondering. And for those who want to learn more and get involved in the fight against online abuse, I highly recommend checking out #MyImageMyChoice
Yes.
and other initiatives working to combat this issue.
We'll be sure to include links to those resources on our website.
Perfect. And as we wrap up this part of our deep dive, I think it's important to remember that the technology behind deepfakes is only going to continue to advance.
It will become increasingly difficult to discern real from fake,
Right.
which makes awareness and action even more urgent.
This is a battle that we can't afford to lose.
We need to stay informed, stay vigilant, and fight for a future where technology is used to empower and protect individuals,
Right.
not exploit and harm them.
Well said.
Thank you. You know, it's interesting how this deep dive into the exploitation of Emma Watson's image has revealed not just the technological aspect of deepfakes,
Right.
but also this deeply disturbing psychological element. It makes you wonder what drives individuals to create and consume this type of content.
Yeah, it goes beyond just the technology.
Well,
it's like
yeah.
there's this whole subculture, this community that thrives on this kind of exploitation.
Right.
What's fascinating and a bit unsettling is that we're not just talking about like faceless individuals hiding behind screens. The Matthews, as we've been calling them,
Right.
are becoming increasingly visible.
It's as if they're emboldened by the anonymity the internet provides, but at the same time, they're seeking recognition for their disturbing creations.
Right.
It's a strange paradox.
It's like they want to be both invisible and notorious at the same time.
Right.
And it's interesting that you brought up the term the Matthews again.
Yeah.
I know we've touched on it, but I'm still curious about where this term originated and why it's so closely associated with this specific type of online behavior.
You know, the origin of the term Matthew is actually a bit of a mystery.
Right.
It's one of those things that seems to have just emerged from the depths of the internet,
Wow.
becoming a sort of shorthand for this specific type of obsessive fan behavior.
So it's not like there was some infamous Matthew who started it all.
Not that we've been able to uncover.
Okay.
It's more like this label that's been collectively adopted to describe men who engage in this creepy stalker-ish behavior online, particularly towards female celebrities.
It's almost like a boogeyman of the internet, this shadowy figure that represents everything that's wrong with online culture.
And it's important to remember that while the term itself might sound somewhat humorous or dismissive,
Right.
the behavior it represents is anything but.
Yeah.
The Matthews are engaging in real harm,
Yeah.
creating content that is depthly violating and disturbing.
Absolutely. And while they might be like the most extreme example, their behavior is really just a reflection of a much larger societal issue.
You're talking about the misogyny and objectification that women face both online and offline, right?
Exactly.
Yeah.
The Matthews might be the loudest and most visible perpetrators, but they're not the only ones contributing to this toxic culture.
Right.
We see it everywhere.
Yeah.
In the way women are portrayed in the media, in the casual sexism that's often brushed aside,
Right.
and in the online harassment that many women face on a daily basis.
It's a pervasive problem that we need to address on multiple levels.
Yeah.
It's not just about shutting down websites or passing laws.
Right.
It's about changing attitudes and challenging the underlying beliefs that allow this kind of behavior to flourish.
It's about creating a culture of respect and consent, both online and offline.
Yes.
We need to start having these difficult conversations, challenging harmful norms, and holding each other accountable for our words and actions.
And it's important to remember that this isn't just about protecting celebrities.
Right.
It's about protecting everyone.
Yeah.
The technology that's being used to create deepfakes is becoming more accessible and sophisticated every day,
Wow.
which means anyone could potentially become a target.
That's a terrifying thought.
Yeah.
It's like the internet is becoming this wild west where anyone can be manipulated, exploited, and their image used against them without their consent.
And the legal system is struggling to keep up.
Right.
While there have been some positive developments, like the UK criminalizing the creation of deepfakes, there's still a lot of work to be done.
It feels like we're at a tipping point.
Yeah.
We need to act now to ensure that this technology doesn't spiral out of control and have devastating consequences for individuals and society as a whole.
And action can take many forms.
Right.